Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Eli Calusi, and in this video, we are going to be going over the brand new, long-awaited OpenAI Responses API. Now, this new Responses API will be taking over the Assistance API pretty soon here, and it's something that if you're into AI development, coding, or just the space in general, you need to learn as soon as possible. There's many new features, many new capabilities that we'll all cover in this video. It is extremely exciting, and I really hope you stick around and learn something that will benefit you tremendously today. All right, guys, let's get into it. So guys, before I jump into the main portion of this video, where I show you the code snippets and actually get into the documentation to show you what's changed and go over everything, I want to show you this tool that I've been using a ton recently. It's called Vectal AI. And no, this is not a paid sponsorship or promotion. This is genuinely just a tool that I've been really enjoying using over the past month or so. So this tool is created by David Andre. I'm sure a lot of you know him on YouTube. If you're watching my channel, you've definitely seen his. This tool is something I've been using to plan a lot of my day, my week, and really get the AI to work for me and not against me. It's very easy to leverage. And for their subscription, which I'm on right now, Vectal Pro, $30 a month, you get access to all the best models, all the industry standard models that are kind of leading in terms of best output and best generation. Claude 3.7, GPT 4.5, Gemini 2.0, as well as a couple reasoning models right now. There's O3 Mini High, which in my opinion is by far the best reasoning model for coding. Then you have DeepSeek R1, which is also a very fun model to play around with. And coming soon, Sonnet 3.7 thinking. We can say, hey, then you'll see it'll respond like anything else. So if we go to Ultra Search here, this is a very cool tool. And so you can see it knows that I'm finishing a YouTube video and working on software products, need any assistance with organizing tasks or anything else. So it has context already on what I'm trying to accomplish, which is extremely helpful. Now, if I click on Ultra Search here, this is very similar to something like a Sonar from Perplexity or Deep Research from OpenAI. So if I go, I want to learn more. So you can see what my input was here. I want to learn more about the new OpenAI Responses API. Give me a guide with code snippets on how I can leverage this tech. You can see here, now we can actually see it streaming to the chat live and we can see its thinking process, which is very cool. So you can see there's full breakdown here with charts, code snippets, everything I asked for. Now, one thing I will say about all these tools coming together and OpenAI building out the roster of tools in this new API is that they kind of are becoming the one-stop shop for all your resources. And depending on how you feel about OpenAI, I know there's mixed feelings, how they went from a not-for-profit to a for-profit. It's controversial, but they are kind of becoming that one-stop shop and trapping you in their ecosystem. So that's just something to kind of be mindful of, I'd say. We'll go over all this later on in this video. Guys, don't worry, stick around because we'll cover absolutely everything, all the new cool features that you'll want to implement into your apps. Built-in web search is one new thing, whereas before you'd have to use stuff like Firecrawl, Serper, different libraries to access web search. DuckDuckGo, now it's all natively built in to the API, which is something I've been waiting for so long because any research product needs live access to the internet. As we know, a lot of these models get a bit outdated when they stop refreshing it with new data, and that is a big problem. So you need web search. For all your apps, I know a lot of you have these external APIs. Now it's all in one. We have the multi-step task execution, so it can be doing multi-thread things asynchronously all at once, which is very cool. Conversational persistence, so basically all your conversations with the Responses API and even all your users' conversations, if you have this in your SaaS product, can be are persistent by default in your dashboard in OpenAI. So basically, you can set that to either true or false. So if you want to store them in some sort of external database, that's absolutely an option as well. Then we also have image analysis or computer vision as well. So now we can actually use an image as a prompt and we can say, what's in this image? Just like we can, we have been for a while with regular ChatGPT and like 4.0, 4.5, and it will provide us that information. Extremely cool. Now, another thing that is not really in the scope of this video, but is something I plan to make a video on actually later today and publish it tomorrow the next day, is this computer use preview. So I'm sure a lot of you saw the information, or not information, like the news about OpenAI operators. So that can these agents that can actually control your computer and do tasks for you in your browser. Like, for example, go on Facebook Marketplace and send like lowball offers to people selling dirt bikes. It can perform that task autonomously while you go do something else. It's absolutely insane. It has access to your computer. So in this case here, I think this is a really good good example that Vectal gave us here. So you can see client.responses.create. So you'll notice this new responses parameters passed in here. This is the new thing indicating that we want to use the responses API. The model, computer use preview. Then in this tools object down here, type computer use preview, display width, and then environment is the browser. Input, role user content. The content is kind of our prompt, book flight to Tokyo next week. This is probably going a little above and beyond its capabilities right now. I'm guessing it would probably struggle with this as it is just in preview, but you get the idea. This technology is absolutely ridiculous. So just to really solidify this information in your brain, here is just a very, very quick synopsis or summary of what's happening here so you can get a quick idea. So if you are using the Assistance API in your app, or you're used to the syntax there and you're used to developing with that, it is going to go away by mid 2026. So it's not like we're in a rush. You can even leave it in your apps, but I would start slowly migrating now. I think that's a very useful thing to keep in mind. And I would start slowly learning the tools that are available and thinking about how you can integrate those in your app or replace existing tools and try to unify it all with OpenAI. The syntax here, this was the old syntax, client.chat.completions.create from the chat completions API. Then the new one, client.responses.create. So this responses parameter is what we're passing there. We also have direct access to response.output.text to stream that wherever we want. It's very, very nice. So this is another new thing. Automatically conversations will store in your dashboard in your OpenAI account. Now you can just set this to false, store to false. If you want to store them in like Supabase or some sort of external database, that's absolutely fine as well. This reasoning control is very cool. So we can do low, medium, or high reasoning. The higher the reasoning, the more expensive your API call will be, but the more comprehensive the model output will be. So that's just a balancing act there. There is a new developer role, which I'll show you as well. And that's kind of it, guys. So then, yeah, the response from Vectal is honestly probably a little bit more thorough than what I got from here. But nonetheless, let's get into a couple things in the documentation here, guys. If we go to the built-in tools section in using built-in tools, we'll learn how to use built-in tools like web search and file search to extend the model's capabilities and give it brand new things to access. So we can use these tools in a very simple way. So this piece of code right here will include web search results for the model response. So you can see we import our libraries. We have the response is client.responses.create because it's the responses API. We do the model, tools, web search preview, and input. What was a positive news story from today? So it's very cool, very simple. This is all we need to do, guys. And you probably think it's more code, but it's not. So you can see available tools. We have function calling, file search, web search, and computer use. Now, computer use is a video that I'm going to create a little bit later on. So stick around for that one. It's going to be very cool. But I just want to show you guys an example of web search in this video. So let me show you how to leverage this new web search tool from OpenAI. All right, guys. So we've covered the basic things that all surround this brand new responses API. And now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into one of the many things being web search. Now, as I said, I have a video coming on the computer use. And a lot of the other things I'm not going to cover because I'm just going to assume that you're familiar with the old either chat completions or assistance APIs that have a lot of these similar tools. I just want to cover the things that are brand new. So I'm not going to cover image generation or stuff like that. That's why we're doing web search right now. So if we dive into it, you're going to see a little bit of code on the screen here. Basically, I just have a basic .env file with my OpenAI API key right here, OpenAI API key, and then copy and paste my key in there. All I did was I did npm init y to spin up a project here, and then I did npm install OpenAI, and then .env. Just like that, so we can load environment variables and keep our keys safe. So Now if we get into the actual code, which is on the screen right now, so we're importing our .env at the top, and then just exactly like we had in our documentation here from our web search, we're importing OpenAI from OpenAI, and then we're setting client equal to new OpenAI. So we have client is equal to new OpenAI. Then we're also passing our API key in here so we can actually access the results that we get because we need our API key in there. Then we have an asynchronous function called perform web search right here. It takes a parameter of query. And then we have a try catch block here. So it's first going to try to set the response equal to client.responses.create. And then it will set our different things that we need to pass, such as the model, tools being web search, and then input. So these different things will allow us to access the code itself. And I believe it should actually be web search preview right here. Let me just change that. Web search preview. Cool. Then we'll save that. And then the input is query. Now you might be thinking, but the input needs to be the prompt passed directly. Well, that's not necessarily the case because it's actually much more beneficial to have a variable that we can pass around dynamically and store wherever we want. So that's why the input is set to query right here. And you'll notice that this is the actual parameter that perform web search takes. So you can see it's kind of all coming together here. So this is the main function we run. Oh, sorry. So this is the main function we run. And then in like directly below that, we have a console log and we grab this object response.output underscore text, which is the exact output without all the other things like tokens, cache tokens that are just unnecessary information. So right now we're actually grabbing all we need, which is just the output. So make sure you add that in there. And then if there is an error, we console log error during web search and then the error directly, whether that be like 404 or 500, whatever the error code we get may be. Then at the very bottom, we call perform web search and we pass in what was a positive news story from today. So now if we run this here just by doing node web search .js and we just hit enter on this. Let me pull this terminal up here so you can see the response better once we get it. Okay, cool. So that took maybe like 4 seconds. So actually quite quick to get back. So we have a couple different stories here. Web search today, March 14th, and it is indeed March 14th. Several positive developments have occurred. After a recent sell-off, global markets experienced a rally. Cool. NASA and SpaceX proceed with Crew 10 launch. Oh, that's cool. Didn't know that. And if we go command click, we can actually follow these links. So you can see it's grabbing up-to-date information from web pages, celebration of Pi Day today, and positive news. So you can see it just scraped general positive news from around the world. It didn't have that much context as to what we were looking for. So it just kind of took, it into its own hands and just grabbed like generally cool things off the internet. So this is example number 1, guys, of a very basic web search. Now let's get into example number 2, where we go over something slightly more complex and we give the model more context to get a better output. Okay, so we got through this simple web search file we had here, the most basic query you can make using the new responses API. Now, if we transition into web search 2, you can see it's a little bit more code, 33 lines of code, and it's a little more complex. So let me walk you through it and let me tell you what's changed here because this is a more complete, full, accurate response. So the top of the file remains relatively similar or actually identical. We just import our packages, our files, and then grab our API key to actually complete the processing. The asynchronous function perform web search remains, but now we just have like a lot more parameters that we pass to this function. So query remains the same, but then the second parameter we're passing is location, which is equal to city. And we're just manually setting the city to San Francisco and the country is US. Let's do USA. Then context size is going to be equal to medium. So if you remember from earlier on in the video, we had, I think, low, medium, and high. And basically all this means in the context of web search is how much data the web search is going to grab. So like how many websites it's going to visit and how like rigorously it'll scrape those websites. So we're just going to set it to medium because remember the higher context size, the higher cost, like not by a ton, but a little bit, and it can add up. So just something to be aware in your web apps, but I'm just going to do medium. Then we have this try catch block, just like we had before, guys. We have the response is await client at responses.create. So we can create a response from the responses API. Model 4.0 again. Now for the tools, you can see this is changing a little bit. We have web search preview for the type. Then for the search context size, which is in here, you can see, where is it at? Oh, they aren't adding context. See, so we have search context size here. So they manually set it to low in here, but we set our variable context size equal to medium. So all we have to do is pass context size to search context size because that's equal to medium. Then for user location, the type is approximate, and then the city is location.city, which is how we access with like this dot operator right here. That's how we access the city. Then for country, same thing, a location.country, and then input query, exact same. And then we log everything the same, except we add one more thing to perform web search down here, which is upcoming tech conferences. And then we pass in the city, country, and the reasoning down here, the level of reasoning we want. So now if we run web search 2.js, and we have to add node at the beginning, node. So let's give this a second to run, then we'll see what we get. Okay, cool. So it's saying as of March 14th, 2025, here's some upcoming tech conferences, because remember, that's exactly what we asked for, upcoming tech conferences. Here's some upcoming tech conferences that might interest you. So we have one in San Francisco, California, which is the most relevant response that we wanted, a leading cybersecurity conference. And again, we can check the sources. We can see everything. There's all inline citations and sources, which is very cool. International Conference on Robotics. So you see it provides us everything we're looking for in a very timely manner. So this one, since it had more information, the simple version took maybe 4 seconds to run. This one took about 8 seconds to run. So I'd say it was roughly double the time to run this. So you've just successfully used the responses API, guys. Now, remember, the implementations on your app is going to be small to start out with, but as OpenAI keeps adding more tooling and more features to this brand new API, it's going to become so powerful, and it's already very powerful, don't get me wrong. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I would strongly recommend you slowly migrating to this new API just to not get left behind. But I wouldn't go into this crazy panic yet. I wouldn't worry too much. I wouldn't lose sleep over not migrating soon, but it's just something to keep in your mind. So thank you so much for watching, guys. That's going to be the end of this video. I hope you learned something about the new responses API. If you did, I'd appreciate a like, a subscribe, a share even maybe. My Instagram is going to be the first link in the description. I love talking to you guys, connecting, talking about AI, talking about nerdy shit, all that stuff. So without further ado, thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.